Rambam actually uniquely is in the position that any post-Talmudic opinions, unless they're universally accepted, he doesn't have to reckon with. So he'll often say, my predecessors say X, but I think they misunderstood the Gemara and you should really be this way. Yeah, he gives a whole introduction. His introduction actually is to explain this. Is at the end, what makes something a majority is if that majority has been accepted by all practicing Jews. And in his position, the last text to have been universally accepted by all Jews is the Talmud. So anything post that almost never is universally binding because the Jews have been more sporadic, literally geographically more spread out, and therefore difficult for any one ruling to be universally accepted, and therefore he can disregard it. There are some instances in which he says the Gaonim have come to this conclusion, meaning the post-Talmudic scholars before him have come to this conclusion, and it's been mispashet, minuk pashet, it's become the accepted practice across the board, and therefore that's the halacha because it's been accepted across the board. But if it's not accepted across the board, Rambam is easy to disregard it. Interestingly enough, this is a hugely contested position of Rambam, but this is his position nonetheless.
So
it's a little bit of a sidebar, but yeah.
So when did the minhag get thrown? That's only from Talmud?
Not everybody takes Rambam's position.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, over time, customs have evolved that do become universal. And one could make the case that even Rambam would agree you have to do them because they become universal. In other words, Rambam's rejection of customs that have become post-Talmudic before his era is not because you can't have new custom post-Talmudic era, only because they haven't been accepted universally. But if they were accepted universally, then they are binding. One can make that case from Rambam, and I would actually make that case. A number of areas where you see Rambam writes, minhag of the Gaonim, minhag pashat. It's an established universal custom of the Gaonim, the post-Talmudic scholars, to do X, which means he's not averse to the notion that post-Talmudic custom can become universal. It's the question of reality: did it become universal or not?
Then isn't that the greatest irony that the Rambam himself became like
contested?
Like indisputable.
He's undisputable as an authority, but not undisputable necessarily that everything he writes is halachic.
Right.
Not everything is accepted as practice.
Right.
He certainly was hoping to do that. He writes in his introduction that my objective is, because everybody's all over the place, I'm going to make one book, everybody's got to follow it, and then that's just going to become the universal code.
Right.
But he was strict on following only things that were
correct.
Right.
Correct. Okay, so
accepted across the board.
Exactly. Here's an example from the very Seder itself. When the Rambam writes in his book of halacha what you should say at your Seder night, he includes the basic halachas of what is universally accepted you must do at the Seder to read in your Haggadah. We know from letters that his son wrote that he himself, Rambam himself, said much more they didn't put in his book. For example, the Dayenu. The Dayenu does not appear in Rambam's Haggadah. Because this wasn't necessarily a universally binding practice. But actually, in his own Seder, he did say it. Example. Yeah.
And when did the minhag of Ma'ariv come about?
Way earlier. That's in the Talmud time already.
Oh, it is Talmud time.
Yeah, certainly. He writes that in his book of halacha. Anyway, once you know this, look out for when Rambam says universally accepted. You'll in your daily Rambam study, look out for this to see it. Where he says, Yesh min ha-Gaonim, there are some of the Gaonim that understand it this way. I think they got it wrong because of whatever. And then they'll say, minhag pashat, it's a universally accepted practice to do da-da-da-da, and therefore da-da-da. Look out for that, yeah.
The whole concept of how to interpret any law, right? The originalist position.
Mm-hmm.
This is to ensure that we don't lose faith, that we don't lose track of the originalist position.
Yeah.
So significant.
Rambam is certainly a minimalist originalist.
Exactly.
If you want to do it that way. Yeah.